Okay, you're good.
All right, so we're gonna start out with you guys drawing a picture of something you noticed on your way to class today on the white sheet that I handed out earlier. All right, is everybody all done? Would anybody like to share what they drew today?
I drew the rain.
The rain. Anybody else?
The benches.
The benches, okay. Max?
A tree.
Tree. All right, so today we're covering natural intelligence. So those of you who drew trees or rain are more inclined to be a natural intelligence learner.
I'm Jake, and this is Larry. I decided we're covering natural intelligence. What we expect from you guys, we expect you to participate with our lesson, respect everyone else in the classroom, complete all the work that is assigned to you today, and most of all, have fun and enjoy yourself. Alright, by the end of this lesson, you guys should be able to define naturalistic intelligence and as well be able to incorporate natural intelligence into your own classroom environment.
All right, so what we have planned for you guys today, we're going to cover the PowerPoint of the natural intelligence, and then we're going to have a story time for you guys, and then a short little activity that we're calling Guess What, and then we're going to conclude it with a recap. So what a naturalist learner is somebody who likes to learn by using nature. So they like to learn about animals, plants, and organisms. And you can tell who a naturalist learner is because they enjoy being outside. And they also like to learn about the parts of the environment. And this student is more likely to excel in science as well as passionate about environment issues such as global warming or pollution. So that's the way you can define a naturalist student. And for your classroom environment, there's a couple ways you can change the environment of your classroom to encourage this learner. One would be using the window if you have the opportunity to have that in your classroom. You do this, you can use it within your lesson to relate topics. So if you're covering Civil War, you'd be like, look outside and imagine the battle going on. Or in reading, you'd be like, if you look outside, imagine the character walking towards us and picture the scene. So you can incorporate the window into your classroom environment. And also, you can have classroom pets and plants if that's allowed. So pets, you can have fish, gerbils, or plants, and I'll cover it later, but you can incorporate that into your lesson. Help your students. Last one, you can completely change the environment of your room by taking your class outdoors on field trips or having a class garden or just taking your class outside and read on the lawn or do an activity outside for them. And then finally, materials that a naturalist learner would like to have in the classroom are microscopes, binoculars, and magnifying glasses. So having those in your classroom will help assist their learning. And for the curriculum development, math, you can have questions related to naturalists, like if you're trying to find the lengths of the triangle, so you have hypotenuse, you can be like, there's a tree that's 20 feet tall and you're standing 20 feet away. How far away are you from the top of the trees? So they includes the tree into that. And also if you have pets or plants within your classroom, you have a little station, or you can relate it to your topic. You'd be like, if you're covering percents in math, you'd be like, how much, what percentage of growth did the gerbil have? Or how much of the weight did the gerbil eat? Or how much of its weight did it eat? So you could calculate the percentage of its weight. And then for English, an easy one would be, you can have them write about nature, so you'd be like, write a story about a boy and his dad going fishing, or write a story about going in the wild. Or you can also read books like The Hatchet by Gary Paulson would be a good example of that. You can read that. And then within that, you can discuss the settings of the book and the nature's effects, so the animals, what effects they have on the environment out there. And for science, you can have observations of nature, so you can have them create a journal within that class. And for chemistry, you can have them create their own products using organic materials. And then physics, you can connect it to like solar energy or other stuff like that. And then history and geography, you can have like the effects nature has had on a certain culture, like the potato famine. You can like relate that to nature and how it affected the whole culture. And then the effects it also had on the battle. So if like during the battle it was raining, that affected the sides, like how they fought, or like for the Civil War, how like the environments of each north and south, how that affected how they fought the battle with the resources they had. And then for geography, you can talk about the different farming techniques, like how in Wisconsin we farm different than in Florida, and then also the plants and wildlife found in each region. Like Wisconsin, we have different animals in Africa, so you can compare those two.
Some strategies you could use for teaching your classroom. Simply take the students outside for reading. It's a easy way to incorporate the environment and get your naturalistic learners involved and get them more focused on the task at hand. That might be weather depending, so it gets to be kind of tough sometimes to do that, which is tough about incorporating this intelligence. But if it's a nice day, it's going to be spring, your kids are getting antsy, just take them outside, whether it's like individual reading or group reading. Another one is nature walks. That's a good way to just like have your kids burn energy. I know, for example, when I was in elementary school, there was this exhibit that we'd often go to called Mosquito Hill, and we just be toured by a guide, and he'd talk about what kind of wildlife's there, different kind of plants and animals. Like Larry said, cover issues like global warming. Your naturalistic learners will be very passionate about these because they want to preserve the environment. And then, like he said, bring the natural world into the classroom, whether that be having a pet snake or plant. And if you had a plant or something, you could give the kids each a job each week to water the plants or something. Classroom management, a good way would to be incorporate nature stories. For example, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. It gives a good example of what to do, not to lie, because it ruins your credibility. Like in the story, the boy, he's watching over the sheep, and he was told that if he yelled wolf, all the townspeople would come running. And so he does a couple times, and everyone comes running. And then when there actually is a wolf there to hurt the sheep, he doesn't get any of the help he needs. So that's a good way of incorporating nature with a lesson to be learned. Assessment, you can assess how they relate nature to an overall event. For example, you could say, we talked, like even in our tortilla lesson, we talked about how we talked about natural resources. So that's a good way of bringing in naturalistic intelligence. You can quiz them on different types of trees or other wildlife. I took an environmental science class in high school, and we had different units on like birds and fish and trees. And I know, like when we took our took our quiz on the trees, we actually got to go to a nearby park, and we looked at different trees, and we had to list what kinds they were. So that's a good way of bringing your students into the outdoors. Another one would be a wildlife observation notebook. You could just simply have your kids sit outside for half hour each day or so. You kind of use this as like a final project. Sit outside for like a half hour each day and examine what you see and have them record. Have them have like 100 different species that they see. Like include like birds and mammals and reptiles, insects and plants, like everything. Just 100 total or something like that. That'd be a good way to assess your students' learning. So now it's story time. So listen closely. An old woman was sleeping sound, only until the noise of grasshoppers outside alarmed her and awoken her from her slumber. Once awake, she went to her kitchen to brew a pot of coffee. She sat on her porch drinking her coffee while listening to the birds chirping. As the day went on, the sun got hotter and her garden needed watering. She walked to her garden, only to be startled by a snake slithering amongst her tomatoes. She ran back to her house to relax and read a book. She began reading for hours when she heard the hooting of an owl outside her window, then decided it was time for bed. She retired to bed only to be awakened the next day by the sound of grasshoppers. So, what are some examples of nature that you would see in this story? Max?
Grasshoppers.
Good. Very good. Maddie?
The snake in the garden.
Great observation.
The sound of the grass.
Perfect. Yep. Exactly.
Alright, so within the story it mentioned plants, grasshoppers, snakes, birds, and owls. And right now we're going to have you guys we're going to make a food chain, and we're going to have you guys make predictions of what you think the food chain actually is. And then we'd like to have, or make a prediction on what would be the bottom of the food chain. Max?
The plant.
Plant, okay. What would come next? What would eat the plants?
The grasshopper.
Grasshopper, okay. So what would eat the grasshopper then?
I'm gonna go with the bird.
Correct. So what would be next in the food chain? Max?
I'd say the snake.
Snake, correct. And finally, what's the last one?
Joey?
The owl.
Oh, right. So there's the food chain. So as you can see, this would be a way in English class how if you read a book, you can take things out, like such as these animals, and then relate to nature by having them create a food chain related to what you read in an English class. And then now we're going to play a little game called Guess What? You're going to get a couple minutes to create a couple of sentences describing your favorite animal or pet. But the one rule is you cannot use the name of that animal or pet within your sentences. So you can just write down your white sheet of paper that I gave to you guys earlier. And once you guys are done, if you'd like to just look up at the board or one of us, just so we can know you guys are done. Alright, so now we're going to have you share with either the group at your tables or just a partner. And you guys are going to read your sentences to them, and then you're going to have a couple guesses to guess what their animal or plant is.
Okay. It lives in colder areas.
Very
It's
independent.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
it's a form of
It
communication.
lives in colder areas.
Yeah,
It's mostly
yeah.
black and white, and it loves to waddle around.
Yeah.
Good hint. That's a good hint.
Ready? Yeah. It is like a horse but smaller. It lives in the sea and comes in many different colors. As a baby, this animal is called a fry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We have.
What's your own pet? Are you talking about your own
I mean,
pet?
I probably say dogs because that's purpose of the activity, but I do like penguins. Penguins are cool. On a baby.
Alright, so how many of you guys guessed it correct? Alright, so we got a couple. Does anybody want to share what they wrote down with the class and have the class make a guess?
Alright, I'm gonna do it one sentence at a time. Alright, they are playful and intelligent.
Puppies, kitties.
No. They are my favorite exhibit at the zoo. They are usually brown or black, but could be many different colors.
Bears.
No, I don't think they're playful.
Monkeys.